We got another day of NBA action. And with FanDuel, every night is a watch party. So it's time for your FanDuel crew to make their bets. So, what's the move tonight, gang? You know that new customers who bet $5 get $200 back in bonus bets if you win. Woo-hoo, we're heating up, fam. Bet all the stars with all your friends and make every moment more only on FanDuel. New customers bet $5, get $200 back in bonus bets if you win. Make every moment more with FanDuel.
It goes down in the DM. It go down in the DM.
21 plus and present in Iowa. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Hello, America. Delighted to have you with me. It's Eric Erickson here. I sure hope your day is going great. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be a part of the program, your calls are welcome. We must discuss the rise of anti-Semitism in the country. This happened 2 blocks from where I am. In fact, I was at a wedding this weekend and Philip sent me the link, and at first I didn't realize why he was sending me the link to the story. It was more than a little disturbing to me. John Menadeo Jr., who leads what's called the Goyim Defense League, was arrested on 2 charges, protesting outside Temple Beth Israel in Bibb County, Georgia. They were minor charges. One was disorderly conduct. Bond was set at $910. So they showed up in my town. They protested outside Temple Beth Israel, which is 2 blocks from me. My friend Larry Schlesinger, he and I were on city council together. He had been the rabbi there. He's since retired. I know members of that congregation. They are good people. And this guy decided to spread anti-Jewish hate. While this was happening up in Atlanta, neo-Nazis were holding Nazi flags outside a synagogue this weekend. This group has been protesting Jews pretty widely. They've done it in Los Angeles. They've done it a lot in Florida. What's interesting about this particular guy is that he's clearly a professional. A friend was at this local protest, and he instructed the police that some of the congregants and others who were there to counter-protest him were getting too close to him, and it was his free speech rights. And so he was able to get the police to push the counter-protesters back away from him. He was clearly a professional who does this. He gets off on this. He and others have said that those related to him that Hitler was right. They have protested at Auschwitz. Now listen, this is in my backyard, and I'm more than a little offended that a group of anti-Semites would show up in Macon, Georgia and Atlanta, Georgia and protest Jews, some of whom are friends of mine who go to this temple. But there's a larger issue here, and it transcends something that happened in my backyard. The internet is a breeding ground for malcontents who want attention. And given that I'm devoting a monologue to this, I should be careful with what I say, but part of this is they do want that attention. But you've also got to know that this is happening in your backyard. This is happening. And it is overwhelmingly younger white guys, and they want attention. They want the notoriety. And you got to balance the notoriety. Now, I saw some unfortunate news outlets cover this with outrage that police were allowing them to fly the Nazi flag outside a synagogue. They're allowed to. If they protest properly and fill out the paperwork, they're allowed to. They can take advantage of the freedom of speech. And part of what they want is for people to overplay their hand and curtail the freedom of speech. They don't like the fact that the Anti-Defamation League and people like me can push back on them, and we've got our own free speech rights, and I've got a bigger microphone than this guy does. This guy has a platform, and it's very orchestrated. He clearly told the media where he was going to be so people would show up and give him the attention that he wanted. This is one of my frustrations with the modern American media. And listen, I get the irony here, and I get that some of you say, well, this is hypocritical. You don't want the media to cover him, and here you are covering him. Yes. But the point is not so much this guy, but it is the media. If this guy showed up by himself outside the temple and the media was not there because he asked them to be there, would anyone know that this happened? So much of what happens, the media can't figure out the balance between this is news, we got to cover it, and this is only going to be news if we do cover it. But there is something else here, too, that we really need to spend a little bit of time with. There is a growing level of anti-Semitism creeping up in the dark reaches of the internet that is starting to spill out onto the streets of the United States. And overwhelmingly, it is young white men. Most school shooters, not all, but most, young white men. Anti-Semitic protesters, young white men. Where are their fathers? Where are their mothers? In many cases, these guys socialized online, not offline. They didn't have offline friends. A lot of the people, when you find out these patterns, many of them didn't have friends at all. And they didn't have great relationships with their parents. If they had relationships at all with their parents, they came from dysfunctional families. I notice this trend in modern society where more and more people are abdicating their own responsibility for things instead of taking responsibility. So parents just kind of let their kids go do whatever they want to do. They don't hold them accountable. They don't punish them. They don't discipline them. They don't engage with them. They don't behave as a parent should behave with a child. And then you get to this point where you have this guy who is clearly a professional troll who enjoys showing up at synagogues and temples and fanning neo-Nazi flames with these people. Where are the parents? It's too late now for this guy. And also, you should know that this particular guy is a professional. He does something called the sovereign citizen movement. He essentially claims that any reference to humans written in all cap letters is not a legal reference, that they are artificial entities created for nefarious purposes. They actually claim these sorts of things. And for some reason, law enforcement humors them on these sorts of things. This one happened in my own backyard. And here's the thing that you have to understand here is that the protests, they do it for poops and giggles. They do it to shock the conscience. They do it because they want to get a rise out of people. And it's not them who create and cause the violence. It's the people who come after them who create and cause the violence. They're the precipitating event for the violence. You shut them down, you shut the violence down. But you can't shut them down because they take advantage of their free speech rights. They want that prominence. But what you can do is you can start stopping these people at an earlier age. You know, one of the things that people say all the time that is somewhat true is when you forget the past, you relive it in the future. We're at a moment where there's this rise in anti-Semitism because we have spent our years now of late indoctrinating kids in school instead of educating kids in school. There are a lot of kids who don't even know what the Holocaust was. And what's so alarming to me is that you've got members of the media, for example, who have claimed that Ron DeSantis in Florida passed rules in the Board of Education to no longer teach the Holocaust. Actually, they've got a prescribed period to learn about the Holocaust and what it was. And the media, they didn't want to get that stuff right. They don't want to get any of the stuff right. They don't want to actually put their finger on what's going on here, which is a singular collapse of American school systems to teach real history. They're so busy rewriting it to tell the history of those they felt left behind. They don't want to teach the real history, which includes the Holocaust. And people like this thrive on that ignorance. Have you ever met a Holocaust survivor? Sadly, they're dying. They're old now. And this guy wouldn't care. You put him in touch with him, he would be deeply insulting to that person. But we're not talking about this guy. This guy's too far gone, and God will reckon with him. God will deal with him. But what about your kids? What about your grandkids? A man showed up in my town 2 blocks from where I am broadcasting right now to protest a Jewish temple where friends of mine worship. You're absolutely right. I'm having a discussion with my children tonight so they know that it happened and how wrong it is and bad it is. My children have been taught what the Holocaust was. But will your kids hear about the neo-Nazis showing up outside the synagogue in Atlanta and hoisting Nazi flags because they're trying to get a rise out of people so that your children know it's something they shouldn't do? Will you talk to your children about what has happened? Will you talk to your grandchildren about what has happened? Don't pass the buck to a school system that's failing. This guy gets away with what he does and spreads the conspiracy theories because his parents failed him and he is a deeply screwed up individual. What about your kids? We all the time talk about, society's in decline, society's going to hell in a handbasket. You know what? We have our children in a classical Christian education school where they are surrounded by believers and they learn deeply about Scripture and the Bible, and they learn that that is true. They learn that the story of Genesis 1, it's not some fable, it's actually true. They learn about the resurrection of Christ. They learn about their faith. They learn deeply about it because we want them to be surrounded with a fellowship of believers who, before the world comes for them, they can be sure what they believe, but they sure as hell got to be sure about the Holocaust too, because that really happened, and I want my children to know about it. And you can wring your hands about the collapse of society and how everything is going to hell in a handbasket, but if you're not spending time telling your children that stuff like this really does happen in this society, and people really do deny the Holocaust, and the Holocaust was bad and wrong, and we should not encourage these people, and their parents should have spanked them when they were kids and clearly didn't, you're going to perpetuate the cycle, because it's on all of us to stand up to people like this and push back with real history and truth against them, because they will keep coming. And the only way to stop them from coming is to make sure your children do not become them. And don't say it can't happen, because I assure you there's parents out there today with kids in jail say, well, my kid would never do that until it was too late. You've got to speak up about this sort of madness that is percolating on society. Don't just say it's the left. You've got left-wing agitators marching in the streets saying we're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children. You should focus on that, and you should see that that is wrong. But you should not do that at the expense of people on the right, people who are nominal allies on the right, who are not anything of the sort, who are spreading anti-Semitism, protesting temples and synagogues with the visual imagery of the Nazis. You're not on the side of the trans activists saying we're here, we're queer, we're coming for your kids. You're not on the side of the anti-Semites either. You cannot devote all of your energy to the one and not the other. These things matter because the more you turn a blind eye and say it's no big deal, the more it festers. You have mold in your shower, you see it, and you think, it's just a little spot. The next day, your shower's covered. You've got to eliminate the mold to begin with, or it keeps spreading. You've got to eliminate the rot. And the way you eliminate the rot is you make sure your children don't become like this guy. Make sure your grandchildren don't become like this guy. Tell them the truth about the Holocaust. And tell them the truth about people who hate the Jews. Since time immemorial, people have blamed Jews for everything. Frankly, it's one of the reasons I believe the Bible is true, because the people of God are always hated. Look at the hate for Jews spreading among people in this country who have been raised with an ignorant sense of history and relish being the targets of hate online and relish the attention. Make sure your children do not become like these people who did these things this weekend. Vision Computer has over 3,000 five-star Google reviews and an average phone answer time of just 15 seconds. When you call, you won't be stuck navigating endless automated menus. A live person's going to answer the phone and help you solve your problems. You know, I run a business, and it's one reason I love the idea that Vision Computer exists, because as a business owner, you know you've got to be efficient, you got to have tech support issues resolved quickly, and you got to have your computers work. Don't let your employees suffer in silence either. They may be embarrassed or hesitant to ask for help, but with Vision support, they can get assistance they need to work more efficiently. Reach out to them. Call 404-COMPUTE or go to visioncomputers.com. In fact, if you call them at 404-COMPUTE, ask for the Eric Erickson special when you call. They're not going to have it on their website. It's just for you guys listening. Call 404-COMPUTE today. Ask for the Eric Erickson special. Be amazed at Vision Computer. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, happy to have you be on the program. An article from 2021 is circulating again. You know, the stories have been coming out more and more rapidly about the degradation of public schooling and decline in test scores. And an article came out in 2021, and they're back at it now. This is the headline. Does it hurt children to measure pandemic learning loss? Research shows many young children have fallen behind, but some educators are worried about stigmatizing an entire generation. Dana Goldstein in the New York Times writing this essential propaganda piece that you're going to make kids feel bad. And maybe we shouldn't do this. You know, this is an excuse for the education establishment to avoid responsibility, to avoid having to answer for what they did to our children. This is their way of getting out of it. They want to avoid having to deal with the problem. They want to avoid having to acknowledge their failures. And so they say, if we talk about it, the kids are going to feel bad about themselves. Maybe the kids will actually feel bad about what a crummy job you people did. You know, there are topics and times I have a hard time not uttering profanity on this radio show. This is one of these times. The educators are the ones who should feel bad and stigmatize. The teachers' unions, the boards of education that decided to shut down kids and then mask them up, and they've regressed in learning, they've regressed in their speech abilities. You know, I have more than one friend who has a small child who wore a mask for so long they've had to go to speech therapy. It's infuriating, and it's one of those things conservatives told them this would happen. They're like, oh, you conspiracy theorists, that'll never happen. And now they're like, oh, we can't talk about it. We'll stigmatize people. They should all lose their jobs. All of them should lose their jobs. All right, let me tell you about the Eden Pure. Is it the Eden Pure, Jim? Did I get that right? I heard you whisper in my ear. Thank you. That's right. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm. You can get 3 of them for less than $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. You put Eric in, E-R-I-C-K. What it is an air purifier, so it gets rid of the pollen and dust, but it's also an odor eliminator, which is how I use it. You know, we traveled this weekend, and I had it with me. I did not have to use it, thank goodness. The hotel had problems, but bad odor wasn't one of them. But it wipes out odors, smoke odors, litter box odors, pet odors, cooking odors, musty odors, you name it. You hold it in your hand. It's so small. You can plug it into a wall. You can plug it into a car with a USB cord, and it just works. It wipes out bad odors. So get 3 of them. Upstairs, downstairs, your basement, your RV, your travel bag, wherever you need them. Get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms for less than $200 by going to EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code box, just put in Eric, my name, E-R-I-C-K. Get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms, less than $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. Discount code is Eric. Hi there, welcome. I don't know if you've heard yet, Jesse Waters is taking over the Tucker Carlson slot, and they're moving Laura Ingraham into his slot and moving Greg Gutfeld into prime time, shake up at Fox there. The Drudge Report reported this about a month ago. They denied it at the time, Fox did, but looks like Drudge was right. Welcome. The phone number here, 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, we must talk about Calvinist America. Now, this is not a theology piece here, but I do want you to understand what people mean by Calvinism. Calvinism, and full disclosure, I am one. I am Reformed in my theology. TULIP is the acronym. It stands for Total Depravity, Unconditional Election, Limited Atonement, Irresistible Grace, Perseverance of the Saints. Essentially, what Calvinism, when people talk about Calvinism, they really hang up on unconditional election. That before the world began, God decided who would go to heaven and who would go to hell. That's a very nutshell, simplistic explanation of it. People really get hung up on that. Essentially, total depravity. Man is just so depraved that we cannot exercise our free will to choose Christ. Like Martin Luther said, bondage of the will. We are bound to our sin. If given the choice between God and the devil, we're always going to choose our sin, which leads us to the devil. But God chose some, elected some for redemption, and so he reached out and touched and unbound us so that we could choose God, but that's only because he chose us first. Now, we're not here to quibble with Calvinism, but you got to understand what people mean when they say Calvinism, and in particular, they get hung up on the so-called frozen chosen, that there is this group of people destined by God for heaven, and everybody else goes to hell. And I bring it up because of Cheetos. Huh? Cheetos. Yes. The movie, Flamin' Hot. There is an editorial assistant to the opinion page of the New York Times, a Yale graduated editorial assistant named Adrian J. Rivera. Flaming Hot, a movie released this month and recently screened on the South Lawn of the White House, is a piece of propaganda designed to make Mexican Americans and Latinos more broadly feel good about ourselves. There's nothing inherently wrong with creating a film that seeks to make a person or a group feel good. It can even be affirming to see yourself reflected in various media. But Flaming Hot is not only a very bad movie, it is a poor piece of propaganda. Wittingly or otherwise, it bolsters the white supremacy it purports to combat. By depicting a world in which Mexican Americans, and by implication all Latinos, need the approval of white people to feel good about ourselves, it reinforces the myth of white superiority. Winning in the world of Flaming Hot means becoming like those who oppress you. And then he has this line further down the piece. Haven't we realized by this, the 2023rd year of our Lord, that the onus is on those who hold the stereotype rather than on us? Flaming Hot says no, that only through the gospel of Ganas, the gospel of desire, may we enter the kingdom of heaven. The film fails to realize America is a Calvinist country. Our works won't save us. At this point, Latinos won't persuade anyone to accept us who hasn't already. We're wasting our time trying. Now, fundamental misunderstanding out of the gate here. America is a Calvinist country. Our works won't save us. That is not Calvinism. Calvinism is the doctrine of election. Some are saved and some are not saved, and God already chose. No, what this guy means is America is a Protestant country. By faith alone, not our works. This Yale educated writer gets general Protestantism and Calvin mixed up. That's one problem here. But I do love this. America is a Calvinist country. Our works won't save us. His point is that hard work is white supremacy. It's an entirely white supremacist idea to think that we can work hard and be accepted by society. And the fact of the matter is that if we are accepted by society, we're accepted by white people. And if we're accepted by white people, we are bending to white supremacy. That's it. That's it. Who cares about hard work? Your hard work doesn't matter. So this guy, this kid went to Yale and is an editorial assistant and gets the privilege of publishing in the New York Times. And his piece on this movie is this piece, and this movie is bad because it seems to suggest if you're Latino and you work hard, white people will accept you for the value of your work product. And that's not true. That, my friends, actually is what's called America. And that has been the great thing about America. I was in Mississippi surrounded by white people this weekend. And do you know what sparked a lot of their interest? I, your host, got to hold in Louisville, Kentucky, I got to hold Jackie Robinson's baseball bat. That Jackie Robinson. And everybody, all those white people were like, oh, you got to hold Jackie Robinson's bat? He was not white and is beloved by a whole lot of white people because of what he did on the baseball field, his hard work. You know, there's this weird pushback by the left against Tim Scott. Tim Scott says if you work hard in America, you can get ahead. Anybody who works hard can get ahead. And the left says, no, we're a deeply racist society. You can't do that, Tim Scott. This kid who probably has a bit of resentment because he suspects that it was his ethnicity that helped him get into Yale. And it was his ethnicity that helped him get to the New York Times as a diversity pick. This kid resents the idea that hard work can get you ahead. And this is, I think, is probably the profoundest problem yet with affirmative action, which may go away tomorrow if the Supreme Court rules the right way. If you are not white, I mean, this is a real problem with diversity in America today, the way it is taught. That your skin color makes you oppressor or oppressed, that you cannot, through your hard work and initiative, get ahead. It's all about your race and your ethnicity. Everything. You are defined by your race and your ethnicity. You cannot get ahead. This is the problem with affirmative action and with corporate America pushing diversity hires. If you are not white, how do you know you got hired because you were competent? How do you know? If you work in a corporation that talks about hiring diverse people, if you get admitted to a college that uses racial preferences, how do you know you're good enough? How does anyone else know you're good enough as opposed to a token? Suspect that's this guy's chip on his shoulder. See, the Flaming Hot movie is actually based on a lie. That this guy took credit for coming up with Flaming Hot Cheetos. It became a myth, an urban legend. It was turned into a movie. It is not true. But the underlying premise is that if you work hard enough, you can get ahead and be accepted by society. You can advance through your hard work and ideas and initiative. But the left says, no, you can't. It's all about your race. It's all about your ethnicity. It's all about your gender. It's all about the intersectional world. And so if you aren't white and you're listening to me right now, how do you know you got into college based on your hard work and merit? How do you know the job you're wherever you're listening, if you're in your office right now, how do you know that you're there because of your hard work and your skills, how do you know? Now, I would tell you should know, and you should be confident. And you got to where you're getting because you have hard work and initiative, and you got there. But the left doesn't want you to believe that. The left wants you to believe that's impossible because they want to foster resentment. They want to foster racial antagonism. They want to be opposed to the American ideal, what this guy calls American Calvinism as opposed to the Protestant work ethic. You work hard enough, you get ahead. This guy confuses it with Calvinism. He confuses sola fidelis and the doctrine of election. He confuses them because he's not well-rounded. He went to Yale. He's probably not a very bright guy. He got a degree in grievance mongering, but he got to the New York Times, a place where I assure you they actually do prioritize hiring people based on their backgrounds as opposed to their skills. And so this guy probably does live in doubt on a daily basis that he's there because of who he is, not because of what he can do. And he takes it out on everyone else. That's the fundamental dehumanizing aspect of affirmative action and race-based preferences, that if you're not white, you never do know. Unless you work for conservatives who don't put up with that nonsense and elect and hire you based on your competencies and skills. I've got an assistant. My assistant is phenomenal. I'm scared of my assistant. It's like having a second wife. You live in fear of two women every day. She is fantastic. She keeps me scheduled. I screwed up my schedule the other day. I double booked. I was supposed to teach a Sunday school class next month, and I'm actually supposed to be on an airplane back, and I couldn't do it, and I should have let her handle it. I screw up my schedule. She fixes it. I pay her well, and she is not white. It doesn't matter to me. The color of her skin does not matter. She is phenomenal at what she does. I choose to take Martin Luther King Jr.'s path. Judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. But this guy who writes for the New York Times, Adrian Rivera, is in his 20s and is already an angry grievance monger, think that everyone is defined by their skin color and ethnicity. And when a movie comes out that shows hard work can get you ahead, that it's somehow white supremacist propaganda. It is a movie overseen by Eva Longoria, of all people. But he would rather believe the myth he's told himself, that he is where he is by virtue of his race and ethnicity, than to recognize that hard work gets you ahead. That's the damning thing that affirmative action does. Now, a group that fights against affirmative action and for limited government and free peoples and free markets is Americans for Prosperity, and you can join their cause, and I wish you would. Americans for Prosperity is the greatest grassroots action group in this country. They do not base themselves in Washington, but they spread out among the states. They have 36 state chapters, and they're growing in those they're not in. They have 4 million activists. They learn how to communicate limited government principles to elected officials and to their neighbors. They can teach you how to be a door knocker. In fact, some people get hired by AFP to be door knockers and go survey what their neighbors believe and see how you can persuade neighbors of the free market message that works. Go to Americans for Prosperity today. Americans for Prosperity. Go there today. You go to americansforprosperity.org/Eric. americansforprosperity.org/Eric. You can learn to be a more effective messenger of the limited government vision for free markets and free people. You can learn to be a greater, more effective grassroots warrior for the right. americansforprosperity.org/ERICK. Greetings, my friends. I have news for you. This has happened in New York City. Some dude showed up at it looks like the mayor's or maybe City Hall, outside the gate of City Hall, and it's kind of funny. One dude with a bunch of boxes of pizza.
Give us pizza or give us death.
He's lobbing slices of New York pizza over the gate. It's only one dude, but he's got like 5 boxes of giant slices of pizza, like extra large pizzas in big slices, and he's lobbing them over the gate, chanting, "Give us pizza or give us death." You know, the environmentalists want you to die, buddy. You carbon producer, they don't want your pizza. They don't want your coal-fired pizza. They don't want your wood oven pizza. They don't want you. They want you dead. The Malthusians out there, they want all of us dead so that they can fly in their private jets without a guilty conscience, and they can pollute the world without us polluting the world. You know, this is the greatest thing to understand about the environmentalist movement is the eschatology of the cult is deeply destructive. Eschatology, study the end times. You, a believer in Jesus Christ, you go to heaven. Who cares whether your next door neighbor goes to heaven or not? He might go to hell. You get yourself right with Jesus, you go to heaven. The environmentalist eschatology, however, is quite different. They can do everything. They can become vegan. They can stop with the pizzas. They can stop with the coal. They can stop driving cars. They can go all electric. They can put up a windmill. They can use reusable napkins for their toilet paper. They can do everything right to save the environment. And as long as you next door with your SUV and your diesel pickup truck and your smoker Outback exist, they are still going to hell. They still burn as long as you exist. This is why every left-wing ideology ultimately ends in mass extermination of people, whether it's Nazism, which was National Socialism, or communism. They always wind up trying to exterminate the unbeliever because their eschatology means that you either have to comply with what they want or you must die, get out of the way, shut up, hold your breath, do something. They want to sterilize you and your kids. That's why they are pushing the trans movement so that your kid sterilizes himself with puberty blockers and can't reproduce. They want the extinction of man so that Mother Earth can live free and breathe without your offset smoker interfering with her. It really is a profoundly disturbing eschatology. They really do believe they can do everything to save the planet, and as long as you exist and don't comply, they too will burn. So they'll burn you at the stake instead. I mean, think about it. If you have your SUV, they don't want you to have your SUV. If you have your offset smoker, they don't want you to have it. They want you to have a windmill and solar panels and unreliable power. They don't want you to have kids because your kids might wind up like you. And also, every child emits what? Carbon dioxide. And out the backside, methane. They're bad. I mean, they are generally. I mean, kids are like germy little monsters, but they do grow up and become productive members of society. And that's the problem for the environmentalists. In any event, we can move on to other things. But God bless this dude lobbing slices of pizza over the fence at City Hall in New York City saying, give us pizza or give us death. I'm kind of with him there. I tell you what, I'm going to Las Vegas in a few weeks, and I'm going to go eat at Grimaldi's. They have a coal-fired pizza oven, and it's delicious pizza. And I will go enjoy my wood or my coal burning up. I may have to smoke meat this week just to spite the New York City environmentalists who want us to give all that up. I may have to go smoke some meat. Fire up my rack. In fact, you know what? While I'm here with you, I'm going to do this because it's awesome. From my phone, just to do it, I am going to turn on my Rectech from my office. I'm going to turn on my pellet grill, and it's just going to burn some wood pellets just to spite the environmentalists. There we go. It's set to 225, right where I had it for my brisket the other day. And these people can't stop me. Their eschatology. They're going to have a bad night, I guess. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Maybe I will smoke something this afternoon. Who knows?
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.